Welcome back, everybody. It's a brand new episode of Randomly Selected, powered by the Silver Room. My name is Mario. Thank you all for being patient, and thank you for joining us again. This season's going to be off the hook for sure. We start with Leslé Honoré, who is one of the best ever. Period. Point blank. Just an amazing human being. We talked to her about why learning your ancestry is so important. I asked her what it's like to be Blaxican, Black and Mexican, if you didn't know. And what does that mean to her to share both of those wonderful cultures? And also, we talk about her connections to California and to New Orleans. It's a brand new episode of Randomly Selected. Glad you all are here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Leslé Honoré.
Ooh. Let me tell you, 2023 has been a year of revelations and epiphanies and growth.
Yeah.
And pain and gratitude.
Yeah.
It's been life. Life has been lifing.
You look great. You sound wonderful.
Thank you.
I am so glad that you are the first one of these we've done in a while, and we get a chance to cover a bunch of stuff. Normally, I ask folks their origin story, and even though I know it, and I think a lot of people know it by now because you're famous, I want to focus on the California part of your origin story. So all this time, I had a different city in California that I thought you were born in, but you were from Gardena,
I am
California?
from Gardena. Yes, I am off of 135th and Rosecrans.
Wow. Is it
Crenshaw? That's my hood.
Wow. I never
Bordered
knew
by
that.
Hawthorne, Inglewood, and Carson. Yes, Gardena.
How long? I said Gardena, I meant Gardena. How long did you live in Cali?
Till I went to college. My mom and brother are still there. That is the beginning.
You find yourself drifting between Chicago and California?
No.
I mean, not necessarily physically, but I mean, is there a part of you that still has? I almost said the whole phrase of California dreaming, but is there still part of you that thinks about California?
I think so. I think California, like love, is easily romanticized. We think about the beautiful weather. We think about the beaches. Like you can stand at the Getty Museum and look at the mountains, snow-capped, and then turn to your right and look at the ocean, and that is intoxicating. And I love what California rooted me in, which was culture and family. It was deeply rooted in my Mexican heritage. But Chicago is home.
Yeah.
Chicago is where I've put my roots down. Chicago is where I've chosen to fight for, fight with, where I've raised my babies, where I have found my chosen family, where I found myself. So I say I was born in L.A., I was raised in New Orleans, and polished in the Chi. So
I want to ask you as well about New Orleans. I've never lived there, but people that I know that have often wax poetic about New Orleans.
You cannot do anything but wax poetic about New Orleans. There is something that is so seeped in the very soil that is our place of freedom and liberation and our fight. It's, my New Orleans story is profound. So there's a town called Destrehan, Louisiana. And in Destrehan, Louisiana, there's a plantation, the Destrehan Plantation. And that is where my American story on my father's side began. That's the plantation where I was both owner and owned. It is still standing. It is where Beyonce filmed Lemonade, where 12 Years a Slave was filmed, where Interview with a Vampire was filmed. The house was designed and built by a free man of color. The only thing that they've had to replace in these hundreds of years are the floors.
Really?
So in preparing to go and visit it for the first time, I was on the website, and they actually have ledgers where you can see the names of enslaved people. And there was Honoré, female, 3 children, $300. And the way that struck me
I can imagine.
Yeah, the
and
parallels.
that you have 3 children.
And that I have 3 children. One of my cousins, Leslé Honoré, is the only person of color that leads a tour at the plantation that is done from the Black Creole perspective. And there's something so grounding about being able to put my foot in the soil of my literal ancestors, to be able to look at the trees that they swung in, to breathe the air that they breathed. My white ancestor, Jean-Noel Destrehan, was, I call him the first consultant. He was actually hired by Thomas Jefferson to help with the Louisiana Purchase. And there are documents in the house, in a small museum, where you can see the letters that Thomas Jefferson wrote to him. So it's this, I think it's a very, it's been my existence, this liminal space of holding multiple identities in tension, holding grief and pride all at the same time. So New Orleans is magical to me. My family is there. My roots are there. We go back to before it was established.
Wow.
And it is painful and beautiful, and it makes me whole every time I go back. It is a magical place.
I know we've had conversations over the years about a lot of stuff. But I think this is prompting...
Over the decades.
Yeah, true. I think this is... Yeah, you're right. This is prompting me to really want to get a little bit more of a hold of the ancestry part of my being.
It's so important. It's, if you can, and not everybody can.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes those lines get broken because of white supremacy. If you can go back as far as you can and speak the names of people who resisted and lived so that you can, it gives me a different sense of purpose. It reminds me that whatever I'm living through is nothing in comparison, and that they survived so I could. And so I owe them. I owe them a diligence of life. I owe them a respect and a homage. I owe them to learn what I can about them, to teach my children about them, to learn who we were and what we worshipped and celebrated before we were enslaved and colonized. It's a powerful journey. If anybody can do it, do it. Like,
yeah, I would say so. I would say so. I know that I have my aunt was Haitian. She married a man from Venezuela. I'm neither Haitian or Venezuelan, but I like to feel that I do have a sense of community with both of those worlds. You are Black and Mexican.
I am.
A proud Blaxican.
I am.
And I want to ask you, what is that like? And don't get me wrong, I don't mean it in its... See what I'm saying? This is the best part of
I love it.
Of this show. I don't mean in the really simplistic Black and Mexican way, but what is that world like for you to have that kind of knowledge and information and DNA?
It makes me feel uniquely American by birthright and blood right. It makes me feel extremely empowered to criticize, to critique, to want to make better, to have a profound sense of ownership of land where my indigenous ancestors lived and where my Black ancestors cultivated. They're very rich histories of people who have survived the unsurvivable. You know, the genocide, enslavement of systemic racism for hundreds of years, whose purpose was to either kill us or kill our spirits.
Right.
And so to see how both of my heritages have survived that, and the beauty of that, the beauty of our expression, our language, our culture, our food, community, it's what shapes me and guides me. And I'm profoundly proud of it. And also it puts me in a unique position to look at anti-Blackness in Mexicans and look at anti-immigration in Black people.
In real time.
And to know where that pain comes from, and then to be in a unique position to be able to question it from a place of lived experience and not theory.
Leslé Honoré is the CEO of Urban Gateways, if you didn't know. Shout out to everybody at Urban Gateways. I wanted to get her point of view on the current migrant situation happening in not just Chicago, but around the country. And then we transition into how she deals with her poetry being stolen and copied via social media. And I want to know, because it's never happened to me, what is it like to go viral? Here's Leslé Honoré on Randomly Selected.
I think in order to have any point of view about what migrants are experiencing and what sanctuary cities are experiencing, first we have to understand that the reason why these countries in Central America are unstable, the reason why they have horrible environmental issues, economic issues with war, with corruption, is because America destabilized them. Mm-hmm. So that's first.
Right.
The reason why they are there are because of things that were done in our country's name. And that is where the complexity starts. So first, being responsible for that as a nation and learning there are many things done in our name that many of us are unaware of. So encouraging us to learn more about our country, our systems of government, both local and national, and to take part in that. It is our right. We've died for it. And so let's pick up the mantle. And for those of us who don't have the capacity to do that because we are still enmeshed in survival mode, those of us who are hopefully in thriving mode, for us to understand that and take that responsibility to act on those behalf. So that's first. Second, I know it's painful to be a Black American and know all the ways your country has ignored you, all the ways it has seen you as a second citizen, all the ways that it has oppressed you and continues to oppress you. And then to see any group of people receive support, to acknowledge that Japanese people in internment camps have received support, and they should. To know that our Jewish brothers and sisters who have been persecuted for millennia have received support, and they should. And us as descendants of enslaved should also receive reparations. It is not a do not give to them. It is just, we would also like an acknowledgement to understand that pain and to understand that some of the comments that come from an immense pain. I challenge us to not become what we hate. I challenge us to hold in tension the pain of not being welcomed, and to also find the compassion that makes us uniquely human.
Yeah.
We talked about my daughter, who's a teacher, and she has migrant students in her classroom, and she looks at faces specifically of the Central Americans who are Afro-Latino that look like her brother or look like her sister. It is something that is a reminder, the perils that someone has endured to get here on foot. This has not been a joyride.
Right.
This is a last attempt, a desperate seek for survival. And if we cannot find our own humanity in that, we have bigger problems.
Yeah.
So it's complex and it's nuanced, and it needs support more than just one community. The whole state needs to be participatory in it. The nation needs to be participatory in it. It should not just be the city whose funds are being maximized for it.
Exactly.
And it should not just be the South or the West Side that bear the brunt of it.
Exactly.
And those are the things that cause tension.
And I think we're seeing that tension play out when people are saying, why is this happening on my side of town when I can't get X?
Yeah.
Why is this happening in Chicago? Where is the president? Why hasn't he said anything to the governor of Texas and the governor of Florida? It's a really damning thing right now that the president of the United States has remained basically silent through this entire ordeal, while the brunt of it is put upon Chicago Los Angeles. They drove a bus to the vice president's house.
And if you have to understand, the people that are on the bus don't know where they're going.
They have no idea where they're going. They don't want to be where they're going.
Right. They just don't want to be dead in the streets. And that is something I think we can all find commonplace on.
That's the commonality. We are looking at a humanitarian crisis that apparently it's going to be put upon people who are in the middle of a humanitarian crisis to help solve a humanitarian crisis. That shit's crazy.
And it always is. It's always the burden of the oppressed to help the oppressors stop oppressing them.
Shit's crazy.
But yeah, it is. It's not easy, and there are difficult questions that must be asked and answered. And there's no easy solution, and there's no one solution.
With that in mind, I wanna shift gears for a moment, if I can. You are a poet and I'm going to get back to Urban Gateways because I've got a bunch of questions about us serving the youth and what have you. But you are a poet, ma'am. You are a poet of renown. You are of my poet friends. You are among those who have gone super viral and have had, if I'm not mistaken, this was a long time ago, so I was trying to remember earlier. Didn't someone take one of your very, very first viral poems and legit put their name on it?
They did. It was my poem about Serena Williams. So this was 2018.
There it is.
And I forget the person's name, but they were one of the winning contestants on RuPaul's Drag Race. And had a huge following, hundreds of thousands. And posted my dope poem. It was dope.
Yeah, well.
without credit. And so I inboxed them and I'm like, hey sis, like, hey, just give me a little credit. Like just, and I don't even think my following then was even in the 2 digits yet. I was still happy. I'm like, ooh, did I hit 5,000 max on Facebook? And they did not respond and for hours. And that was the first time where I was like, I felt immensely supported. So followers took the time to respond to every single one of the comments on their pages. It's like, hey, this is my girl Leslé's poem.
I definitely sent. I remember that. Yes, I did.
Over and over again. And then I, put up screenshots of my conversation that went unremarked where I was being hella easy. Like, hey, just give me credit, please. And thank you. So it's commonplace now. I almost come to expect it. Like if something goes super viral, someone's going to copy it and not accredit me. Even to the point when Brown Girl went supernova about Kamala Harris, and there was school teachers in New York who were using it as affirmations, and NPR covered the story and did a whole video and did not tag me or anything like that. And so Jessica, who is one of my closest friends and also handles PR for me brilliantly, was on it and was like, hey, can you just tag her? And they responded, and then that kind of grew and grew and grew. But it's commonplace. I think specifically when it comes to art that is on social media, people use it, and I am okay with that. Just tag me. Just hit the share button. Just acknowledge the artist.
You know what though, Leslé? That's one of the reasons why I don't really post poems anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, and if I do, I know it's a poem that's either been published or something that I've got a copyright on. Yeah. But I generally am like, I not that I'm saying people shouldn't do it. I just won't do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's my platform, though. Like, the first time I posted a poem about Tyshawn Lee in 2015 after he was murdered, and I had a girlfriend, Sharonda, who was like, hey, make that public. And I was like, girl, ain't nobody want to read no poems on Facebook.
Sure.
And I made it public, and it blew up. And
but let's say every one of the ones you write does that. That Serena one, Brown Girl, is being taught. There are plenty of videos of little kids reading that poem. I have never had. What does it feel like to go viral? I've tried.
It's humbling.
It does not work.
It's
for me.
I don't try. I've learned what my formula is, and it is to respond to current events as quickly as possible. So I'll stop a conversation. I'll pull over if I'm at a red light. It's how I honor my connection to God, because I believe that's where it comes from. It's not me.
Yep.
And I found that when I write about things that are affecting specifically brown and black people, and I write about it with a reminder of humanity. I really started that rhythm in 2016, writing about the police brutality we were not just first time experiencing, but the first time we were seeing it in real time. In black and brown communities, lynching, happened with ropes. It just happens with badges and guns now. And now we see it on Facebook, and we see it on Facebook Live, and we see it on cop cameras, and we see it on TV. And when I started to write about what that felt like to be a black and brown mother and have black and brown children, and know that there was nothing I could do to protect them for how the world perceives them, and that they are going to go into a world where they are going to be assumed adult before adult, they will be assumed guilty before innocent, that they will be preyed upon, that they will always be a subject of question. Are you allowed to be in this space? Do you have the credentials? Because I still experience that. Even as a CEO, microaggressions still float up. So that's what I started to write about. And I found that people connected with that when I was writing about universal truths that can't be denied. Rarely do I write something that's just about me.
Yeah.
That feels extremely vulnerable. So if you ever see a piece where I use I, know that costs blood and sweat and tears to post that. But I'm at this space where I know my conversations of blackness are received differently because of light privilege. I know my conversations about Latinidad are received differently because I'm first generation and not having migrated in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. And so I hope to wield that to create understanding, to challenge, to start conversations that sometimes people aren't brave enough to have face to face. So I often have people reach out and say, I didn't know that that's what black women experience having children. I didn't know that that's the conversation you had with your kids when they were 3 years old, warning them about how to interact with authority and with police. I didn't know that, we are worried if our kids get pulled over and get a ticket. You are worried if your kid gets home.
Right.
I didn't know that was your experience. So it's painful, but it's also powerful, and it's community building. And I think I got in that groove really well, and then I started to write. We would have really well-known black and brown people pass, and the conversations about them would be so whitewashed. Mm-hmm. You got your Muhammad Ali t-shirt on, and I remember writing about Muhammad Ali and saying, let us not act like everyone loved him when he was here.
Please don't.
He was a revolutionary. Yeah. He was jailed at the peak of his career. He was tormented for his beliefs, for his skin, for his bravado. Let's not act like, he was everyone's favorite. Let's be real. And I have a MLK poem I post every year.
Yes.
And it's like, do not whitewash him. He was murdered. In his suit, with respectability politics at play, because he was a black man and he challenged what a lot of people believe should be our liberties. So I started to do that, and I really I love paying honor to our heroes that we see very differently in our community than they're seen and remembered commercially. And then sprinkled every now and then would be a celebratory poem that we could all have joyful moments about, whether it was, Serena winning, or, Simone winning, or Meghan Markle getting married to a prince. Even though we knew racism didn't go away, we were going to have this one moment where we were joyful together. And I think, if anything, that's what sustains us, those moments of joy, whether they're small moments in our family or community moments. And so I like to write about that too.
So let's get back to that Urban Gateways conversation and how Leslé sees herself as the head of such an important organization and what her mission is when it comes to the youth of Chicago. We start this one off, however, by asking Leslé if there are things she's written that the public will never see.
Absolutely. Ooh, there are things I write about relationships that, although they are raw and truthful, the subject doesn't deserve my public. They don't deserve to be remembered in words that I use to heal myself.
Are you going to Stevie Wonder these pieces and destroy them all?
Oh, hell no. They will be in the book. They just won't be on social media.
I got you. That's a level of respect, though, in a way.
It's respect for myself.
Them. Yeah, that's what I mean. For you.
It ain't got nothing to do with,
with
providing spaces for people who have harmed me to hide in.
I think that's a really vibrant form of self-love by not putting something like that on social media. Yeah. There's a conversation that Eric Williams and I have all the time about people running to social media when things happen to them that are bad. Yeah. And I feel like that's the wrong run. I
run to social media when things happen to our community that are bad.
That's different. I'm talking about like personal stuff.
Listen, I'm a human being. There's petty.
Oh, well, if there isn't petty, that you're not a human being.
Petty lives here, and
that's a T-shirt.
I could destroy people if I wanted to.
Yeah.
I could tell the truth about people's behaviors and actions that would have their whole community look at them differently, but that's not my place. That's between you and your God, and I don't have to waste my time with that. What you will receive is what you've planted and sown, and what other people will harvest, they will harvest. And I write about it to release it from my spirit, and I'll publish it so other people who have experienced similar things can hopefully find healing in knowing they're not alone. But put that on the space that I've cultivated over a decade to create harmony and unity in a place where we can grieve together and love together, to dishonor that and dishonor people I've connected with your garbage? No.
Felt.
No.
Felt. You are the head of a pretty important organization in Chicago in Urban Gateways. Our city's youth are number one in my book for everything. I think the future of Chicago and the future of any major city in the world, it hinges upon how the youth are brought up and how that transition from being a young person to an adult, how that's cultivated, traumas aside. How do you see yourself as the head of Urban Gateways, an amazing organization, by the way, with amazing people that work there? Yeah. Shout out to everybody at Urban Gateways, known and unknown. I'm talking to you, Motep. Amazing people who are in them, who are themselves cultivating Chicago's youth. What is your mission when it comes to the youth of Chicago?
My personal mission, which is in superb alignment with Urban Gateway's mission, is acknowledging that art is how we heal. It's how we process. I often say, before we had paintbrushes, we had a wall in a cave, and we put, this is our buffalo.
Right.
This is my family.
Right.
This is where I live. Before papyrus, we told our story through songs, through poems, through music. As a species, humans, no matter what corner of the globe we have matriculated to, art is at the center of how we tell our stories, how we celebrate, how we mourn, how we grieve, how we keep our histories, how we think about the future, how we collect ourselves, how we build community is in art. And we also know at the same time that sometimes fine arts can be one of the largest gate-kept things ever.
Say that.
Because it's there aren't resources poured into that. So Urban Gateway's mission, is to ensure that no matter what zip code you have, that you have the same access that anyone else in the city to experience the arts, to create, to see a performance, to have that supreme autonomy of making something when there was nothing, and knowing there's no one who can tell you that it's wrong because you made it. So whether it's a poem or a painting or a song or a beat or a dance, You created that. It didn't exist before you. And that is something that is transformative. There's no career that I have currently that I don't have because, that I wouldn't have because if I didn't have poetry. Like, poetry is the link for me. And to honor that, I want to ensure that as many people as we can help get access to this ability to express and connect, that we do everything that we can, because we know that it's healing. We know art is how we connect each other's humanity outside of social, economic, ethnic, race, class, country. Art is the thing that survives. We are still listening to music made hundreds of years ago. We, protect paintings painted hundreds of years ago. We do different iterations even now. Like when we were talking about hip hop earlier, when we think about the honor that hip hop plays by bringing music that in a lot of ways youth now and youth when we were growing up weren't familiar with until they sampled it.
I just had a sample conversation last night.
That is art.
Absolutely.
Respecting art, creating art, keeping it alive in this cyclical place of creation and respect and inspiration.
That's a Sonic line. Tell the truth, James Brown was old to Eric and Rock him out with I Got Soul. That's a fact. We are the purveyors and the remixers and the reproducers and the current reproducers of greats that have come before us. There's nothing new about what we're doing. We're doing new stuff.
We are new.
Right.
How we do it is new.
Exactly.
But it is not new, and that's why it connects us. To be at an organization that not only wants to figure out every way possible to create access to that, specifically in areas that have not had access to that, schools that do not have budgets for art, and then to also support and elevate and revere the teaching artists who both practice their art, create their art, and then want to ensure that they're creating legacy. It's a good place to land when those are the things that you value too.
And I know for a fact, because I am honored and humbled to say that I've known you long enough to watch this transformation of yours. Someone said this about you. I don't know if you know it or not, but you always reinvent yourself. I don't know what it is about people like you, but it's not something that you just go, okay, today I'm going to change everything and reinvent myself. It's kind of like it's organic. It's a thing you do really well, which is just like, okay, I see it. Let me work to figure a solution out to this, or let me talk about this, or let me. Where did that come from in you?
Ooh, life. Desperately not wanting to be stagnant, knowing people who are the same people today that they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. My God, my prayer is that none of us are that we are humble enough to create space for us to grow in our thoughts and our opinions and our values, that when we know better, we do better. But not to be afraid to spread our wings, to if there's space being made for you, if there's a door open, why not go through it and see what's on the other side? You might just like it.
Yeah.
So I don't fear giving myself the liberty to transform in all the ways that the world transforms us. How do you go through this world and not be transformed by pain and by joy?
Right.
Right.
They're kissing cousins. Joy and pain.
You can't have one without respecting the other. So I've experienced a tremendous amount of pain, and I hope to use it to show people that there's a side beyond it. And I've experienced a tremendous amount of joy that I try to be really intentional about ensuring that I share it with anyone whose hands and hearts are open to receive it.
Our final segment with Leslé showcases her love for her children and some amazing closing thoughts. You thought all that other stuff was hot. Listen to this. We close out with Leslé Honoré on Randomly Selected.
I'm deeply in love
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah, I get it.
During the pandemic, when people are like, oh, I can't wait for my kids to go back. And I'm like, it was a horrible time. There was fear. A lot of people we know and love died.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I'm glad that I had the wherewithal to acknowledge how rare and unique it was to have my college junior and my high school senior, and at the time, my 11-year-old, all at home together. And we cooked together and we played Pictionary together and they played Monopoly, and I went upstairs because in my house, Monopoly is like spades and I don't do either one of them. Y'all, people get a little too...
There are some amazing stories about your Monopoly games.
I lay out the snacks and I leave. But
yeah, buddy.
It was so beautiful to have that time together.
Yeah. And
to lean into it. And for me to look at them and go, I really like the person that you are. Mm-hmm. Not because you're my kid, the human being that you are. Mm-hmm. And so it's really parenthood, and especially being a single mom since 2011 and it just being me. You are responsible for the victories and for the failures, and that is scary as hell.
Yeah.
But I love being responsible for these magical unicorn dragon dope people who find a way to dedicate their lives and their talents to other people as well.
Yeah.
It is extremely humbling, and if I do nothing else, that is more than enough. Yeah. They are more than enough.
What is the future? What are you doing? What you working on? Where you going? How high are you flying?
I am flying as high as the wind will take me. My wings are not wax. I am not Icarus. I can get close to the sun and I will not melt.
Right on.
So, I mean, immediately, Brown Girl, the poem that was in my book, A Fist and Fire, that I self-published in 2017 and that I remixed my own stuff when Kamala Harris won, and she was our first brown and black, our first woman, our first daughter of an immigrant. So many identities that so many of us saw reflections of. When I redid that poem and posted it, that's how I got my literary agent. So Johanna Castillo, she is a woman from Ecuador, and I think that's so dope, the full circle of that. And to be represented by Writers House, who, like I was saying earlier, represents MLK, and Octavia Butler and Isabel Allende, like core people to my formation of thought. Mm-hmm. So to get a literary agent out of that poem, and then to now have a 2-book deal with Little Brown. So Brown Girl will be a children's book illustrated by Cosby Cabrera, available for pre-sale in June of 2024. And in the fall of 2024, wherever books are sold.
That's right.
And you will see me crying in Target, signing and moving my books to the front. And then the following year in 2025, My Brown Boy will be a children's book illustrated by Katura Bobo. I never aspired to be a children's author. That was something my dad wanted. So he would tell us stories every night before we went to bed. And the year before he died, he self-published his own stories, the rocking chairs, stories that he told us. And so it's not lost on me that I'm my father's daughter. He would MC parties and, finding out late in life that he would have one-man shows where he did comedy and played the guitar. And he and Prince shared a birthday.
Oh, well, there you go.
Prince and Gwendolyn Brooks. And my dad never really liked Prince because he was like, why is his booty out? And I would laugh. And then when my dad died unexpectedly in 2018, he had already planned his services. And so we were signing papers. And they were like, okay. And so the Dove release. And I'm like, I know my daddy did not order a Dove release. This is hilarious. And he was like, oh, no, he did. So I'm cracking up about that.
They have no idea why you're laughing.
Right. And I'm like, this is funny. And I go home and we're going through his paperwork. When you have a parent die, it's a club everybody will be in at one point, and it's not fun.
Not at all.
But you're going through all the insurance stuff, and I found his sheet music. songs he'd wrote my mother, and I was having a total Purple Rain moment and just cracking up, But this was part of his dream, like words and the love of literature and the love of writing was a gift that he gave me. And so for it to come full circle like this is the thing that I hold on to when life gets hard. I know I'm living my purpose, and I know how rare that is. Not everyone has an opportunity to do that. So I hope my other purpose in life is to do whatever I can, whether it's through Urban Gateways, whether it's through writing and posting, whether it's through having one-on-one conversations, to encourage people to tap into what your purpose is, whatever it is, to tap into your art, whether it's painting or making a bomb meal or perfecting the perfect hug that we need that helps us release, and you just fall into it when you get that perfect hug from somebody. Those are all our art forms, and let us be fully knowledgeable of that and walk in that, because that is the rent we pay. So if I can help anyone do that, that's just a cherry on top of all of it. But yeah, that's what's coming up. It's my children's books, and I'm so giddy about representation, about, like, when I was raising my kids, there weren't a bunch. Like, I would be coloring in people's faces and making them brown. So Brown Girl's about representation. Yeah. And Brown Boy is about the different ways our brown boys learn. Like, Bubba didn't play football until he was in high school. He's a big kid, but he was a comic book reader. Like, we love Star Trek and Star Wars and Harry Potter and The Hobbit and manga and anime, and he loves Nina Simone. And like, our brown boys don't get this space to live these lives that are full of exploration and being dynamic and nuanced. They get pigeonholed so early, and so Brown Boy is about that, about the different ways they learn and express and how beautiful it is. And so, even when stuff gets heavy, there's lightness.
I love you. I'm glad
Mario,
that this happened today.
Much.
I'm glad that we continue to have great conversations with each other.
Beautiful 20 years of friendship.
Lo, these many years. And I am super happy that these things are happening to you. And your experiences, you're translating them into ways that people can live their lives better.
I'm trying.
You ain't trying. You stopped trying a long time ago. Thank you so much for being on the new fall season premiere of Randomly Selected.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is dope.
And that's Randomly Selected with our very special guest, Leslé Honoré. Stay tuned for more Randomly Selected, powered by the Silver Room. See y'all soon. Peace.